Hi, David.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, David, we heard from witnesses, police officers as well, who spoke at the lack of a major security presence for Charlie Kirk. During the news conference last night, the UVU police chief said there were about 6 police officers and then, quote, some plainclothes police officers in the crowd as well. We also know Kirk himself had about 9 or 10 personal security guards as well. Is that typical for a crowd size of about 3,000 or so attendees?
That is, and that's the challenge here. When you have high-powered rifles that can shoot from so far away, you need to secure a huge perimeter around thousands of people. So I don't blame Kirk or his security people at all. This is a tragedy. He was assassinated, but this is the reality of trying to secure an outdoor gathering in this day and age. You just can't do it effectively unless you have the resources of a president. And as we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania, sometimes that isn't enough as well.
When things like this happen, whether it be an assassination, an attempted assassination, and or a mass shooting, we talk a lot about copycats. And something that stands out in my mind is, of course, the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO. And in some circles across this country and across the world, he was celebrated for going up against power in a way. And the prosecutor in the case said, and I quote, "Simply put, the defendant hoped to normalize the use of violence to achieve ideological or political objectives." What do you make of that?
That is the definition of terrorism, actually, the use of violence to achieve your political goals, particularly the use of violence against unarmed people. Given the several recent attacks, that's a concern that we could have copycats, that there's other people going out there. Many of them appear to be young men who are going out and carrying out these kinds of attacks. And one thing that, again, our colleagues have noticed who cover law enforcement is that the radicalization process, often because people are interacting with us online, is much faster than it used to be. And the different motivations are much more diverse. The young man who tried to go to the NFL offices in New York felt he had brain injuries from playing football. There was another young man who built a huge car bomb in Palm Springs that went off outside a fertility clinic. He was an anti-natalist. He believed there were too many babies being born in the world. So that's just a reflection of all the radicalization and then the weaponry and tactics that these young people are using.
We are used to seeing these overseas historically, right? Achieving political ends through violent means. And yet we are seeing it more and more now domestically here in the United States, and including to that list, I think a lot of folks would say much of it began with Charlottesville. And then there was the attempted kidnapping of Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. There was the attack on then Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi's husband. There was the setting fire to Governor Shapiro's mansion. There was the targeted shooting of the Minnesota lawmakers. We could go on and on. The narrative has now changed from this only happens outside the United States to it's happening here.
And you had the Republican softball practice. I'm here in Washington, just over the river in Northern Virginia, where Steve Scalise was nearly killed. You had 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. And I'm just making the point, people are resorting to violence from all sides of different debates and movements, and what causes them, how you track them, how you stop them is an enormous challenge for law enforcement.
I know you've been speaking to a lot of folks pertaining to this, this increased political violence here in this country. And there is a sense that it's happening more now than ever because it is in a way being normalized on social media.
One person I talked to, and he gave me a really good perspective on this, his name is Glenn Gerstel. He's actually the former general counsel of the National Security Agency. And I think we should pause. I don't know if this is the most violence ever. I mean, the United States has had horrific divisions in the country. Most Americans in any conflict died in the Civil War. And then in the 60s, you had, the assassinations of the Kennedy brothers, of Martin Luther King. We haven't always gotten along, and there's been deep, deep divisions, but he feels that the different ingredient now is social media. And what's so unusual about it is that it's anonymous. He feels that social media tends to stoke division. It sustains division. It'll be more difficult for us to sort of return to an era of less violence when social media is so much a part of our lives.
So what does he think we should do about it?
I think, and others have said this, but that there's a moment, for leadership. There's a moment for political leaders to come forward. People are scared. People want stability. People want to, raise their families and have successful lives and careers and not have to fear this kind of violence. These are extraordinary times, and maybe extraordinary leadership will help.
David Rohde, there's a reason why I wanted to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.